and welcome to the Tabletop Optimist. My name is Tim. On this episode of From Level 1 to Now, I sat down with Daniel the DM. Daniel the DM is a tabletop RPG performer, content creator, and filmmaker. You can find him on TikTok, Threads, Instagram, and on Bitten, a Daggerheart actual play where he brings the character royally to life. Links are provided below. Before I start the interview, please like and subscribe to the channel to make sure you don't miss out on any future videos or interviews. Now, let's jump in the interview with Daniel the DM. Want to thank you for joining Level 1 to Now. How's the day going so far?
So far, so good. It was a long night after having a Daggerheart session last night, and then our post talks afterwards. So I'm still recovering from that, but I'm doing very well.
Oh, glad to hear. Typically, my first question is like asking kind of what got you into TTRPGs, but I think I want to start off with because you just mentioned it with Bitten, it'll come up naturally. Without spoilers to the campaign, how is Bitten going so far, and what about it makes you excited to play the next week?
Yeah, so I star in Bitten, which is our Daggerheart campaign that was made in collaboration between the channels Talking XP and Hit Chronicles. So they partnered together to produce this show, and I star in it, and it is genuinely the best actual play that I've been a part of. That cast is just absolutely incredible. This is really my first foray into Daggerheart as a system, and I greatly enjoy it and how it complements my play style when it comes to role play, but still gives me just enough when it comes to the crunchiness of combat.
Yeah.
But it is the cast at that table that keeps bringing me back. I've had so many times and days lately where I'm like, I don't know how I'm feeling about, the space or, where am I supposed to be in the TTRPG realm? But then I get to sit down every Tuesday with that group and I'm like, yeah, this is what I'm supposed to be doing. This right here, telling stories and just rolling math rocks with the people I care about.
No, that's awesome. Yeah, when I saw kind of like the announcement, then just every weekly they'll upload kind of like just the hey, we're going to be playing it this time. When I ever look at the cast, I'm like, that is a really stacked cast, and it seems like the cast really do enjoy the company of each other. It's like the one I've kind of noticed the most is with Kellhop is that they are constantly like posting just how much they love the table, and then I saw Talking XP also doing it, and then kind of like you guys are all doing it together, and that's really nice to see is the support within the actual play.
Yeah, I mean I think that's really the magic of the show. You can have very talented actors, you can have very talented game masters and all these different things, and great production, and have a lot of money behind something, but at the end of the day there is this certain like it factor that can happen amongst the cast where it's just like, no, everything clicks. It's more than just we're good at what we do professionally. It's we know instinctively we know how to play off of one another and encourage each other and push each other and uplift each other, but respect each other's boundaries at the same time.
No, that's really good, because kind of like what you're saying with the it factor, kind of like with like the chemistry of it is you could have some of the greatest actors and in history on a movie, but if they don't work well together, or if they're just kind of like saying their lines to each other, they may deliver the lines very well, but there's always that kind of disconnect.
Exactly.
No, that's awesome. You were talking about kind of TTRPGs, so we'll start with the first question. What kind of got you into TTRPGs, and how long have you been playing them?
Yeah, so it was my best friend who really got me into playing my first game. He had been talking to me. He's my best friend from college. He had been talking to me for years about like, "Hey, I just happened to watch this D&D game. Huh? You should probably check it out. Team 4-Star did this or this did that." I was like, "Oh, okay, yeah, that's neat. They're sitting around playing Imaginary. That looks fun." And then of course the years would go by, and then the pandemic happened, everyone's stuck inside, and that's like everyone's origin story lately from a lot of the current generation of TTRPG players. stuck inside watching Critical Role.
Hmm.
They popped up on Twitch, and I was like, what is going on? Who is this Avantika? What do you mean she's back? What does that even mean? They're on a ship? Is that a model for a ship? I don't understand what's going on. Let me check out the first episode of the second campaign. And then I become obsessed to the point where I watch it every single day religiously, to the point where I catch up is the week of the finale.
Oh,
So I've been watching it for all this time, learning D&D through osmosis of watching it, while still keeping in contact with my best friend, who still been wanting to play. And then once more restrictions around the pandemic lift up a year later, we take a trip to go visit them. My wife and I go to visit my best friend and his girlfriend, and we all get together. It's a New Year's Eve celebration. I believe this is 2021. We're at a New Year's Eve celebration at their place, and then as the night is, winding on, we decide, hey, why don't we just try playing a game of D&D? I mean, that's wild, right? What are we
that's
going
so
to use?
cool.
So we're sitting around at the table, and we have okay, this remote is going to be the barn, and then this let's see, this bottle cap right here is going to be the shopping cart that you can hide behind, all that sort of stuff. And had a couple of little miniatures here and there, and I made this adventure little one shot for everyone to go on, and within about an hour. And then we just started playing, and we did a whole session. We loved it, and that was really the moment that I caught the bug of playing D&D. And then it wasn't until about 2023 was when my wife said to me, I really think you should get back into content creation again, because you miss it. You haven't been creating much lately, and you've been in a funk, and you love talking about D&D. Don't go in with any expectations of what it could mean or having a career and all that sort of stuff. Just post things about it because it brings you joy. And that's what I did. And that foray has led me into where we are now. I'm sitting here talking to you about the projects I've been a part of and everything that's happened in between.
No, and so the first time you played D&D, you were DMing, you were running the game.
Yeah, running
That's
the game.
that's awesome.
Yeah,
That's really
right
impressive.
out the gate.
Yeah, I had to go through a 3-year long campaign. It was like a level 2 to level 13, 14 before I was like, yeah, I'll take the next one. But it was like jumping right into it. It's like, I think people could be surprised how much you pick up by watching like 100 plus hours of people playing it. It's kind of like you're just watching like tapes and you're just picking it up.
Yeah, because you'll miss some of the minutia of like the rules in between there of how you govern certain things. But if you're watching over 1,000 hours of Critical Role, you will pick up, okay, there's an action, a bonus action, a reaction, some movement, etc. You'll pick up the basics of things. But I think even in the new 2024 Player's Handbook, in their introduction, they talk about the thing that you should be doing is watching actual plays to learn how to play as well as a part of reading the rules. Because there's certain things you just can't learn from reading the rules, like pacing and setting up tension through your descriptions, right? And what makes things engaging for your table and your players, etc. So yeah, you really can learn a lot just from watching, but then eventually you do have to take that leap of faith and do it for yourself.
Yeah. What do you know now that you wish that you knew sooner?
I would say the number one thing that I've learned is that you won't know what the story is about until you finish telling it. I think is the biggest thing. I think so in a broader concept, like not talking about like the tips and tricks of like, running a game and things of that nature. The broadest concept that I've learned is like this: if you want a story where you know how it's going to end, just write a book, right? Like that is a better use of your time than trying to force people to try to go down a path that is made by you, but is not really governed by their choices and their agency. And I think that's the number one thing that's been kind of channeling within me lately is not getting caught up in what my plans are for the story, right?
Hmm.
Because I can sit around and say, oh, this is going to be a story about how the good triumph over evil, and a small group of people make their way to defeat the big bad evil guy on Mount Evil, right? But at the end of the day, they could get to the final encounter and then they all die,
Hmm.
right? So no, it's not a story of triumph. In actuality, what we were telling this entire time was a tragedy about these people who came from nothing and worked their way to try to slay the greatest evil in the land and failed. But what did we learn about them and themselves throughout the journey that they went across this whole entire time, right? I think that is one of the things that I've been more focused on, and I'm glad that I've learned over this course of time. But that doesn't negate you having things like your themes, your thematics of the story, or that you have certain set pieces or plot points that you want to have happen within your world. And I've got a ton of tips and tricks for how to get there at this point. But I think generally speaking, I think that's the biggest thing that I've learned across my journey.
No, I really like that. You don't know the story until it's finished. Our first campaign, the the DM, we lost a character, not a player. We lost a
Mm-hmm.
character, and it was within the first like 3 sessions. And
Mm.
so we go to like a it was like the Palor Temple of Palor to give them their last rites and kind of bury them, and then we were going to continue on with the story, bringing in the player's character at a later time.
Mm-hmm.
And as that was happening, the DM was telling us that there's been an uptick in zombies kind of approaching the city that we were in. So he probably thought what we should do is stick around and face them with the guard and with the people of the
Mm.
city. But we were like, okay, we're level 2. We cannot take a
Yeah.
zombie infestation. So we were like, okay, is there a ship anywhere around here? It's like, yeah, you're in this city and it's a coastal city. And it was like, so we, okay, we're going to go take the ship and we're going to leave.
Yeah.
So I was thinking like his probably whole plan was us to like rise up, be the heroes of the city and then continue on. But
Yeah,
we were like, we
save
got
the
to get the
day.
hell out of here.
Exactly.
It was great. And I think that's one of those things where it's like you're completely right is you don't know where the story is going to go
Mm-hmm.
because it's like you said, write a book if you want to kind of like control what everything happens between the start and the end.
Mm-hmm.
But with players, they will put you on a completely different area. And I think that's great advice that a lot of people at the beginning should really know is there is going to be a lot that you can plan out for, but
Mm-hmm.
you don't know, you can't plan for everything.
Exactly. And I think like just to add on to it, the two pieces of like mechanical advice that I think are pretty universal to help mitigate that, where it's like I've had to explain that to people where they're like, oh, well, I see what you're saying, but like, I want them to go fight on the bridge with this and that. I want to have this set piece, this battle to happen. The two things I tell people is if you want your players to go a certain direction, one, don't hide critical information behind a dice roll. If they need to know something, just tell them. They
Mhm.
walk into the room, they look around, and they find the piece of paper that tells them where the secret lab is, right? And then number two, uh, if your bad guy's plan is immediately thwarted if your players succeed early on, then the bad guy doesn't have a good plan. The bad guy's plan should be able to be in motion regardless of what the players do. However, it should not be able to be completed if the players are successful.
Mhm.
And I think when you start rearranging your brain to think in those regards, it becomes a lot smoother to help guide the story in certain directions or towards certain things that you would like to see happen without taking away the agency from your players.
No, I agree with that. Yeah, it's I like those two. It's just like I feel like so many people get locked behind the fact that there are dice for these games. So they're like
Mm-hmm.
everything I do has to incorporate these dice because
It's
people,
got to have a
pe-
dice roll for
yeah, and then it could really affect your story. It's like if you just fail, then what are you gonna do after that?
it. Exactly. Because there's nothing worse than that moment where it's just like the DM clearly is like, this rug looks suspicious. I'll roll an investigation check. 3, 6, 3, 2, 1. Okay. All right. Okay. Never mind. Give me another check. Now I have to come up with another reason for you to find it. You really need this. Then just tell us. It's all right.
What kind how many campaigns have you played in? Whether you DM'd or be as a player?
Oh wow. Um, in terms of like the traditional version of a campaign, I've only been a part of 2
Hmm.
during my time, where it's one my best friend ran and one that I was running for our core group. And those have been like my at-home campaigns we've been running. Unfortunately, they live in a different state than us, so like
I get
I
that.
think it's been about a year and a half since we've been able to continue that story.
Mm.
But in terms of like actual plays within the space is stories that I've been a part of, I think it's been about 10 plus or so
Mm.
within about a year. Like
Oh wow.
it's been very busy because there's been charity one shots and things like that. But I've had been a part of multiple productions that have gone to season 2s. I've been a part of multiple different campaigns at this point, and projects that have been recorded, things that haven't been released, and things we're currently working on. So it's been quite a few. I've been very fortunate to have been as busy as I am for someone who is very very new to this space.
Hmm. No, that's awesome. It's um so this one might, if you have a couple answers, it's perfectly fine.
Yeah.
But what moment from a campaign will always stick with you, and what made that moment so special? It's like I know you were involved in the engagement, well, not the
Hmm.
engagement, the proposal game, which was really cool to watch.
Yeah, that was a really beautiful moment. I work with a group called Fumbles and Crits. Originally started in Asheboro, North Carolina, as this thing called D&D at a bar,
Hmm.
where it was just group of people got together to run D&D games at a bar. Very self-explanatory, but Charles, who is one of the GMs there, is a phenomenal teacher, and he also teaches kids at the schools that he works at D&D through D&D clubs at schools. So like he's just someone who's just like incredibly passionate about this and just loves playing tabletop games and loves running them for anybody who wants to play. So he had that going on, and Sam, who's the coordinator for everything that Fumbles and Crits does, is absolutely incredible. And so all of us working together to be a part of these games and productions led us in the North Carolina area led us to getting the attention of someone who wanted to do a wedding proposal to their fiance in the guise of a D&D game. So we set that up. We went to Rapture Game Store in Asheboro, and they let us come in on their day off, and it's owned by this couple. This store is, and they let us come in on their day when they're supposed to be closed on a Sunday, and they stayed there the whole entire time. They even came in as players as a part of it to let us use their game store to spruce it up with a tablecloth, and had this little design and all this stuff, and everything was like Hobbit themed because it was like this Lord of the Rings style adventure. And we just got to do a marriage proposal in the game. So I got to write this story that was like this mishmash of different pieces of Lord of the Rings, and then it ended with this Smaug like figure having this treasure hoard, and within the treasure hoard was a black box that I then pulled out from my DM screen and passed along to the eventual fiance. And then they opened up the box, and there was the wedding ring inside of it. So it was something that was built into the story, that was built into the real life proposal, and it was such a beautiful moment to be a part of. And like strictly speaking, with the in-person things that I've been a part of, I think just doing Fumbles events with Fumbles and Crits has just been incredible, because working with them, I'm given the opportunity to just meet so many different people. And I love getting a table just full of strangers who are just like, yeah, I brought my whole family here, and I haven't played D&D since AD&D, or I haven't played since 3.5. and my kids never played before, or wait, my kids watch Stranger Things, right? And all these different things. And being able to bridge together generations and generations of players, generations of people, and from different walks of life, and to bring them together to just be there to tell a story. It's just absolutely just one of the most rewarding experiences that I get to do as a dungeon master. So I'm super proud of that and all we did. And we also raised $1,000 for United Way at an event that we did, a charity event, where it's just pay for your ticket for a seat at the table. There'll be food and drinks and all this sort of stuff, and we did that, and we're able to raise money for impoverished families in need within the North Carolina community.
Yeah, no, I've seen a lot of those charity games, and it's just kind of it's one of those things where it's like, even though as like an optimist, like a lot of stuff out there can be pretty dark, and I just seeing all these different charity streams pop up just kind of just makes me feel like really good about it, and it's like it's really cool to see
Yeah,
people doing that.
oh,
Uh,
definitely.
I feel like my podcast is going to be like the from level one to now is going to be the unofficial like podcast of like North Carolina TTRPG players, because literally I've done maybe about 5 or 6 of these, and more than half, since you are in North Carolina, more than
Yeah,
half has now been in North Carolina.
that's
And
great.
I heard it's a state on the rise. Like
Hey,
a lot of
look, we got there's a lot of talent in the TTRPG space in the South. I know that a lot of, you have the production houses and studios that are all over things like your standard places,
Mhm.
your Texas and your Los Angeles. But I mean, it's not to be overlooked just how many incredibly talented people are here in the South in creating some incredible things. Even when you look at the Crit Awards nominations,
Mhm.
so many people are from South Carolina, North Carolina, Georgia, all these different places and all these different categories. And I'm not trying to make it like this like regional battle
Oh
sort
yeah,
of thing
no.
of like, look how talented they are. But I think oftentimes, uh, too, in the arts, especially the South gets overlooked.
Mhm.
Uh, One, we're critically underfunded in the South when it comes to any art programs, schools, and things of that nature. But on top of that, oftentimes we Southerners aren't given that spotlight for a myriad of different cultural reasons for being a part of certain spaces in the arts.
You been DMing with for D&D for a while.
Mhm.
I don't know how much of exposure you have to other TTRPGs, but is there a TTRPG that you've played that you feel like is kind of like a really good fit for your DMing style?
Mm, uh, I have yet to GM for another system.
Mm.
I've played in other systems. I've played in ones that are, I've played in indie RPGs. I've played in Daggerheart. I've played in Eat the Reich. It was a very, very fun one to play in. Uh, I've played in other systems, but I have yet to GM in another one. So I'd say the two that have definitely caught my interest that I'm excited to GM for when the stars align with casting is going to be Daggerheart and Fabula Ultima are two systems that I am incredibly excited to work on. Fabula Ultima is a system that's built like a JRPG as a tabletop game. So think your Final Fantasies and your Clair Obscures, etc.
Mhm.
But take that and make it an actual tabletop game mechanically and thematically, and transport a lot of the job systems over and the style of storytelling over that you would find in that. So those are two systems I'm incredibly excited to finally get to GM in. Because mechanically, I think those systems support the style of GMing that I do.
Mhm.
However, I am still excited to one day do Cyberpunk. It's just that thing is thick as the Old Testament. All right, there's a lot to go through, a lot of those rules and that setup. But I will get in there one day. I promise.
You were talking about that you were kind of wanting to that you worked on some other actual plays, and that you were hoping to, like you said, with the stars align, get some other actual plays in there.
Mhm.
Is there like a major goal of yours in the TTRPG space that you haven't hit yet that you're kind of hoping to hit?
Yeah, I think running my own production. on my own channels, my own socials, running my own production is the next immediate goal of mine,
Mhm.
and just kind of building that for myself and working towards that. I think is the main thing. And then obviously there's like the analytics behind the scene things of like certain numbers and I would like to, and milestones that I'd like to meet, just for the simple fact of what it does for, the channel, sponsorship opportunities, things like that,
Mhm.
etc. But creatively, uh, running my own productions are the goal that I'd like to be working towards. I have been a part of some amazing productions. I've been fortunate enough to meet some amazing people in this space, and I've kind of reached this point, and I think it's more so a personal thing, where it's just I want to take that kind of step back and build something with my own hands from the ground up,
Mhm.
and just build a build up something to present out to the world. Because I have, ever since I started playing in 2021, I've had my own homebrewed D&D campaign world that I've been working in for all of these years behind the scenes, and slowly building and evolving and iterating and like just tinkering with it over time. So I was like, okay, now feels like the right time where I feel comfortable and experienced enough to get this out there to other people, not just
Mhm.
immediate friends and family that I'm playing with it, and really get this out there with people. So that's kind of been the main focus right now.
No, that's real goes. Like, yeah, it, I feel like there is a lot to running an actual play, like being the person who puts everything together.
Yeah.
And it's one of those, it's definitely a good goal to have, because it's like you could learn as you go on. It's like
Mm-hmm.
with being on bin, I'm sure that there is a lot of, anytime that you have a question about how does this work, you got a lot of people there that are, could be like, hey, this is how it's worked so far, and this is how it can be done.
Yeah.
So that's one of those things, just on the job training while hoping to get to that level. And with the amount of time you've already spent on it, I can't imagine it'll be that far from now.
Yeah. So, yeah, the really, it's always the biggest thing is scheduling.
Hmm.
Scheduling is always the biggest obstacle that you have to overcome. Everyone outside of the space, they have lives, they're teachers, they're parents, they're doing all sort of things, they're caretakers. So everyone has their own things they're going through and dealing with and coping with in life. So it's just about finding those little gaps in between and just making it worth their time.
Hmm.
I think is the big thing.
Throughout the interview, you've been kind of like doing a myriad of different voices. I've saw you're doing your Mads Mikkelsen on TikTok. Has
Yeah.
changing your voice always been kind of like a thing that you've liked doing, or is that something you picked up while playing TTRPGs?
Oh, that's always been a thing that I've done ever since I was a kid. I grew up in a very animated household.
That's cool.
Uh, my first passion, my forever passion that I will always live and die with, is movies and film.
Hmm.
So I grew up. My first memories are being in the movie theater as a kid. So like cinema and watching movies all the time has always been a thing that I've always consumed and like mimicked ever since I was a child. So yeah, this is the product of way too much Jim Carrey as a child, is really what I'm trying to confess. So, but it is that mixed with, I've done theater a little bit. When I was in high school, I was part of a improv troupe that was
Hmm.
started at the school. So we did that for, I believe, 2 years. And then my minor is in theater, but my major is in communications from when I entered North Carolina Central University. So, so I have a little bit of that theater experience and background, and have been a part of that space in those communities, and I've attended like acting conferences and
Hmm.
competitions and things of that nature. So that that aspect of performance has always been critical to me prior to doing any actual plays. And funnily enough, when you bring up voices, I always say that when it comes to creating my character, uh, I have the backstories and things that we'll work on, and however that comes up depending on the production. But the most important thing to me that I have to work on for my performance is my voice.
Hmm.
because if I don't feel like I sound like how the character should, then it doesn't really work for me when it comes to the role playing aspect.
Yeah, that makes sense. Yeah, I think that's one of the things that a lot of people find most difficult when getting into the space, or at least just
Hmm.
starting in a TTRPG, is getting the voice down, or kind of the idea of getting into that character where voices aren't necessary like all the time. Like you don't have to have like a library of amazing voices to be able to play the game, but
Exactly.
it does kind of make it a little difficult for people to get into because they've never played as anyone but themselves before. Maybe they played like as a kid when they were like using their imagination, but it's one of those things that people kind of lose over time, and having that background is really cool.
And I also say that for people who sit around and do it at home, I was one of those people who's like, oh yeah, I can do voices all the time while I'm on camera. That's easy. No, it's not. It's
Yeah.
entirely different from when you're doing it at the table in the comfort of the apartment that you are playing in or on the dining room table, as compared to when you were trying to do it and make sure it sounds clear in a microphone and it's picking up correctly. It is way more difficult trying to do all those voices on an actual during an actual live show and maintain it as well.
Hmm. Has there a voice that you've, because like I was saying earlier, I know you've done like a few Mads Mikkelsen videos, but is there a voice that you have done so often that if you had to do it for a straight week, what kind of voice do you think you'd be able to get by doing that?
Oh no, a voice for a week.
It could be like a day. It doesn't have to be like a full week.
I think I think the character Royla that I play in our Daggerheart campaign, even though I do a bit of a deeper voice with him, it's
Hmm.
actually just my normal speaking voice, and then I just throw an accent on top of it, and he just kind of sounds like Clive from Final Fantasy 16, but a little less dramatic, and you just kind of bring it back in that regard. So I think that's something I could probably do for a little bit. Uh, but anything else would probably be pushing it. Maybe if I did my character Aaron, who has a southern accent, maybe then as well, I have some
Hmm.
leeway there. But I think even more so, Royla, even though I deepened my voice for that one, is the closest to my natural speaking voice.
No, that was really cool. Listen,
Yeah.
it's always impressive when someone could just jump into it and then kind of just roll it back to what they're it's how they typically speak. It's like for me, I just always kind of work on voices, and it's like I always have like the idea for a voice, but when I sit behind the table, I'm just like, and it's gone.
And there it goes.
um, but yeah, so uh, this next question is kind of one I alerted to ahead of time.
Yeah.
There are so many amazing Black creatives in the TTRPG space who find it extremely difficult to establish themselves in the space. What advice do you have to non-Black creatives to correct that, to make it more approachable and accessible?
Listen. Uh, Listen is the number one thing that I'd say, because what I've found in this space is that you have, obviously you're always going to have people who will only champion diversity and push for diversity when they're forced to, right?
Mm-hmm.
But then you also have people within the space who will claim to be about allyship, will claim to be about diversity and promoting it. But then when they are directly asked by people of color, by marginalized individuals to make certain corrections, or they're told by their friends about how certain ways that they're doing their productions or the way they're behaving can be problematic, and they're just trying to make them aware. It's a calling in, not a calling out, just private conversations. Have retaliated, said no, uh, and have just been vitriolic in their response. And I've been seeing that more and more within these circles. And I think that's truly the biggest issue, is people's refusal to listen to critique and criticism.
Mm-hmm.
And on on top of people who will then hear what's being said but won't do the work to correct what's going on. And it's one of those things that have been greatly frustrating, especially in the past few weeks, because it's like you'll see people who will champion diversity and champion all these things, but then they announce their main show that they're normally working on, and then they have an all-white cast, right? But then they'll bring on charity events. Okay, all right, now there's people of color who are here and all that sort of stuff. It's their biggest event. It's the one they're promoting the most. And then for the rest of the year, there will be little to no people of color a part of any of their productions, right? And all throughout, this time we'll hear so many different excuses of it's like, oh, I don't know any people who can do this. It's like, but us when it's time for charity events, right? But you'll have that, and then you'll just have people who will go out of their way again to just simply don't care, and are just like, you all are not a priority to us. Those are some things that we've heard directly. It's just like, you are not a priority. Diversity will never be a priority. We just hire who we want to, and hey, they're gonna do what they're gonna do. But it's something that I've seen a part of smaller productions, some of the largest companies within this entire space who put on actual plays, some of the smaller ones. Like, I've seen it throughout the whole entire gambit now. And it's incredibly frustrating because people just won't sit down and listen to what people have to say and would rather create these reactionary defensive barriers before listening to what people are trying to say when they're trying to address their concerns.
No, like and kind of what you were bringing up earlier is, I couldn't find anybody. It's like, I've said this before and I'll say it again. It's like, I'm not in the actual play, like community, like when it comes to people who are casting, but even someone who is kind of like outside of that, who is just kind of peering in, I can't tell you how many times a day or how many times a week I've seen people of color that are like, hey, I'm available. I want to play games. And so when you're saying like, oh, I can't find anybody who wants to play, I'm just like, oh, are you looking that hard? Are you actually?
They're not.
Yeah.
Exactly. That statement is an admittance that you were not searching for the talent.
Mm-hmm.
I am very grateful for the opportunities that have been, that I've been a part of, but it's not lost on me that not all of the opportunities that I've been given are because of my talent. Sometimes it's the association of people whose productions I've been involved with, or people I've collaborated with, or my social media following and things of that nature
Mm-hmm.
are the things that are playing a factor into some of the opportunities that I've been offered. Right. And it's just, yeah, it's just one of those things where as I've been progressing through this space, it's more and more of like the certain curtains get pulled back. You go, oh, that's how that works. Oh, okay, all right, I don't like that. So it's been a wild ride for sure in trying to navigate all these different things, and while still trying to advocate for this space to include us and represent us, while also, you know, with my newfound focus of encouraging those who are Black, Indigenous, or people of color to just build these things for yourself. So
Mm-hmm.
you don't have to worry about getting an invite to this different thing, or you can't find an audience unless you go to somebody else's channel, right? To just build it for yourself. So it's something that you own, it's something that you created, and it belongs to you.
Mm-hmm.
I think is the most important thing.
Yeah, and it kind of following up with what you said earlier is, people who have negative reactions to when being told something. It's like, one thing I heard years ago was, when people get offended when you correct them on like their proper pronouns.
Mm-hmm.
That person is not telling you that to be rude. that person, the way that this person put it was, they want to keep you in their lives, and they're trying to tell you like, hey, these are my pronouns and I would appreciate if you
Mm-hmm.
respect them, because they don't want to lose that person, because
Mm-hmm.
that person may just have to learn and they don't want to lose them. So when somebody comes up to you and like saying, hey, I saw these problems with the production or with the casting, I wanted to let you know, it's not them being rude about it. They're just like, hey, this is how it appears.
Exactly. And I think the thing that people fail to understand or are willfully ignorant of is that all of these things exist within the historical context of the world we live in. We
Mm-hmm.
live in a world where uh, LGBTQIA plus people are discriminated against. We live in a world with a large history of Black people being excluded from entertainment, right, and being forced to make their own uh, entertainment circles or things of that nature because they're not allowed to be a part of the same industries, right? And a lot of what we're seeing within the TTRPG space is just an extension of discriminatory practices that have been around prior for
Mm-hmm.
decades and decades and decades, right? Even if it's not intentional, even if it's just the, hey, we started out as a group of friends who just happened to be all white, right? Not questioning why you only have a group of all white friends, right? But like we had this group and then we started a D&D game and then we started recording it live, etc., right? And then but once you start posting things online, once you start making things become a company, there are certain standards that are going to be applied. And that's just is what it is because you are entering into a field, you're entering into a world where within that space, people are demanding representation, they're demanding quality in that representation because historically people have been left out and
Mm-hmm.
have been purposefully excluded from these spaces. And when you continue to perpetuate those things, even if you intend to or not, you're adding on to that perception, into that harm that it's okay and it doesn't matter and they don't need to be a part of this space anyway,
Mm-hmm.
right? And I think that's the biggest thing, and I think it also makes it even more frustrating when you have people who are being gifted massive opportunities, who are part of these all white productions and all white tables, who can get invited to the largest companies within the space, who can get invited to, who can get the biggest sponsorships in this space, right? Regardless of talent, regardless of involvement of within the community, etc., regardless of the fact that they do not platform, they do not promote anything that involves people of color in their projects, but can still be lauded up within the space. And then, when directly confronted about it, continue to say, we don't care, we're not changing the way we operate, and continue to exclude people of color from their productions, from their circles, etc. Right? So it's like that's part of a whole bunch of the different things that are going on at this ecosystem at the same time. So it's so important for people who will stand up, make those corrections, and make diversity and inclusion pillars of the productions that they build.
Yeah, and it's like one thing that really bothers me about like with kind of how people are reacting to giving other people, making sure other people have opportunities, is the
Mm-hmm.
whole argument against like, oh, DEI is terrible. It's like the thing with like DEI for me is like it's like what you said, giving people the opportunities that they didn't have even in modern day. And it's
Mm-hmm.
like people think that DEI is just so one-sided and that only helps one group of people. But as a vet, even like as a
Mm-hmm.
like a white vet, I have been told a lot of times that you being a vet stood out. And
Mm-hmm.
that's what DEI also does cover. It doesn't just help one group of people like what people want to think, is it helps a lot of people. So it's like even as like a vet, I know that DEI has been beneficial and it
Mm-hmm.
continues to be beneficial. So it's like when, and even with like some of the like the larger like tables I've seen, when you do see them and they have like events that they could do, when it's an all white cast or all but one person is white.
Mm-hmm.
I'm just still like, oh man, that's
What are we doing?
yeah.
Yeah, and it's because again, it's the historical connotation. It's what's happened in the past. It's what's currently happening that we're
Mhm.
seeing politically, and at the end of the day, these things that we are experiencing and fighting back against are the result of when people are in power, they consolidate power for that group.
Mhm.
Those are the current political and socioeconomic systems that we are currently living under, right? So it's okay. This group is going to, oh, they're disabled, they're not a part of it. They have this experience, they're not a part of it. They're this shade of color, they're not a part of it. That sort of thing, and that is the structure that has caused so many of the problems that we are currently under, right?
Mhm.
And I think that is, in general, what we're fighting against. It's the consolidation of power and the thing of it doesn't matter if this person is qualified or not, or if this person is doing well in the community or supports the community, is uplifting the community. They're one of us. They're coming with us,
Mhm.
right? And that's what we've been seeing within the space. That's what I'm seeing almost every single day with certain announcements that I'll see from big companies. It's, oh, this is a large white creator, bring them on board, right? This is a group of all white people who play D&D together. Come on board. We're gonna give you the full treatment. You want a full show? We'll give you a show. We'll give you a sponsorship and all this sort of stuff. So those are the sort of things that we're seeing. It's again the same old repetitive consolidations of power. So that's why it's like, again, important for those of us who have the means to do so to pull together our resources and to build for ourselves, while
Mhm.
also advocating that those spaces where applicable are becoming more diverse and are opening up those opportunities for other people.
No, I like that. And I like this. And it's very good advice, but it's also very simple advice is to just listen because you don't know what you'll pick up when you actually just listen.
And you know, and I've been a part of those spaces where people are having those, hearing those things for the first time. Of uh, I'm a white person. I'm a part of these productions. And I was just, we had this casting issue, we had this issue fall apart with scheduling. So we were in the midst of production, then people started dropping out and all that sort of stuff. I've been a part of those spaces. I know what has happened behind the scenes of certain productions and why they ended up with one token person or one
Mm.
or a group of all white people and all those different things. I know how those things have gone awry, but it's easier to do the work than it is to make up new excuses,
No,
right?
I
And to
like that.
just move forward.
Yeah, and it's even if production does fall through, it's like people saying like what we were talking about earlier, can't find anyone. Well,
Mm,
just because that person isn't available now doesn't mean they won't be available 3 months down the road. You
mm-hmm.
already kind of broke that barrier of reaching out to them, talking to them, establishing that when you find out that they're not available, look for somebody else who needs to be in that, like bring in somebody else that is diverse. But that doesn't
Exactly,
mean you can't work with that person later on.
exactly. Because what's happening? That's been a big part of. I started casting for my projects in June
Mm-hmm.
for productions that I was going to start filming. Uh, we don't have a session 0 for our first one until this Sunday,
Yeah.
because things kept falling apart with scheduling. And I was setting up to have 3 different productions that were about to go on at the same time. Right now, only one of them has a session 0 coming up. But that's also because if I'm going to do it, I'm going to wait, do it right, and with the right
Mm-hmm.
people, right? Uh, it was so funny when I was putting out like little casting calls and like my friends only lists of
Mm-hmm.
on TikTok, reaching out to people. I love them. I got like 30 different white people who reached out and were like, "Hey, Daniel." Let me tell you, you let me know when you got a spot open, pal, and I'm right there for you, buddy. I'm like, I appreciate that so much, and you're an amazing human being. However, I don't think it's right for me to go and then run 3 different tables of all white people just so I can get those stories out there just because I want them out there immediately. Yeah. To me, that's not worth it. It's a mix of not just diversity and not just looking at people from, do you check that box? It's also, what's the chemistry of this group? Mm-hmm. It's not just like, oh, well, that black person dropped out, let me find another black person to get them in there. It's no. How does this person play off of this person's propensity to be more combat oriented or more tactical with this person's role play capabilities, right? What happens if we put these 2 actors in a room together, right? What if we work with these people and put them together? To me, that's the best place to come from when it comes to your casting. And then just making sure you're double checking of trying to look and say, is it the bare minimum, half my cast, people of color, be it BIPOC, Asian American, Pacific Islander, you know, whatever it is, like, have those standards and make sure you're just picking the right people and picking those people that you want to play with and curating those tables and experiences. That's going to be worth it in the long run rather than rushing to just, well, we got to get a quota and we need this show to go up by this date.
Yeah. And no, I 100% agree on that. Yeah. Do you want to ask, where can we find you? Where can we find more of you? And what are you kind of working on that you can say?
Well, yeah. Well, yeah. I go by DanieltheDM across most corners of the internet. So YouTube, TikTok, and Twitch is going to be the number one places that you can find me. Also Instagram and Threads as well. Right now, yeah, we're cooking up some productions. We're cooking up some actual plays. So that's going to be things to look forward to. But in the meantime, I will still be posting my skits and more in-depth commentary on TikTok as well. But I think YouTube is the main thing you're going to want to be looking out for. One thing I just dropped recently was a collaboration project, sponsor video with the Working Families Party. They were doing an event for Juneteenth and asked me to do a video talking about how cultural heritage can impact the stories that you tell at the table. So the culmination of that was a quick little video essay I wrote called Culture is Everything. So I've really appreciated the reception that I got to that video. It seems people have been hankering for some more unique content within the D&D space that's not just going to be your same old top 5 spells to totally break your game, hashtag super OP, you know. So I plan on giving you guys some more interesting content over there as well. It's going to be a little bit more in depth.
Awesome.
But other than that, that's where you can find me.
But yeah, so I want to thank you again for coming to join from level 1 to now, and hopefully we'll be able to do this again soon.
Definitely. I appreciate you having me. This was a great interview. It's so nice getting to, get these questions that really got me into the headspace of thinking about where the journey that I've been on has gone, and the different motivations that I've found throughout the way. So I appreciate you having me.
Before I go, I want to once again thank Daniel the DM for joining me. Make sure to follow them on their socials with the links provided below. Please like and subscribe, as is the best way to support my channel and not miss out on any future videos. I want to thank you for watching, remind you to keep that glass half full, and have a great next game. Bye.